The classroom smelled of recycled air and metal, the kind of scent that reminded humans of ships and space stations. Outside the reinforced windows, the city of Nova Terra gleamed with a light that seemed almost alive, the towers twisting like metallic spires into the sky, each reflecting the pale sun in fractured shards. Inside, students shuffled, their attention half captured by the instructor's hollow projections, half wandering through thoughts of routine and fatigue. Then the doors vibrated with a low hum, a sound that made the hair on the back of necks rise, though none could yet place its origin. The creature had been brought in under strict containment. A living experiment, not quite alien. Not entirely understood. Its body was a lattice of sinew and strange iridescent scales, a shifting spectrum that shimmered against the harsh fluorescent light. Its eyes were a labyrinth, deep pools of cognition that could see both through walls and into the minds of the curious. Humanity had studied it, catalogued it, restrained it. Every precaution had been taken, or so they thought. When the restraints failed, it was not with a roar, not with violence, but with a calm, terrifying deliberation. The steel locks clicked open, and the predator rose, its movement smooth, almost judicial, as if deciding who deserved attention and who could be ignored. Students froze, mouths open, hearts pounding. While the creature's gaze swept the room. Time dilated, each second stretched into eternity. One boy, taller than the rest, with hair that caught the sunlight like a crown, did not flinch. His eyes, steady and unwavering, met the creature's. There was no fear, only the clarity of knowing he was alive, that his pulse and breath were his own and could not be stolen by awe or terror. The predator stopped mid-step, cocking its head, intrigued by the defiance, by the pure human audacity of unwavering gaze. The air thickened. Every system in the classroom's containment field screamed with warnings, alarms, and red lights, but the creature ignored them all. It padded forward, silent as shadows stretching at dusk, and lowered itself to the floor with a grace that suggested both respect and recognition. The boy remained motionless, and the predator, now only inches away, lay down at his feet. Its eyes never left his, an unspoken covenant forming in that quiet, charged instant. Around them, chaos simmered in the periphery. Students whispered, some stifled screams, instructors debated whether to intervene. Yet in the center of the room, in that improbable bond, humanity's essence revealed itself: courage, intellect, empathy, and the audacity to meet a force of nature without flinching. For a moment, all systems, all fear, all calculations of containment were irrelevant. The predator's tail flicked once. Then again, a rhythm almost like breathing. Outside, the city's lights seemed to pulse, as if in response to this silent exchange. Time ticked forward, but in that small chamber, the moment held like a jewel suspended in air. The boy's heart beat in cadence with the creature's, two distinct forms, yet connected by understanding beyond speech, beyond instinct, beyond the fear that had gripped everyone else. A subtle vibration ran through the room, almost imperceptible, a signal from the universe itself that human presence, human intellect and spirit, was more than an accidental anomaly in the cosmos. It was a force to be reckoned with, a spark that could ignite worlds, tame predators, and stand against shadows that stretched across galaxies. The creature's gaze softened just slightly, as though acknowledging a truth it could not articulate, that defiance, when tempered with understanding, was a language the cosmos could comprehend. The boy knelt slowly, the gesture mirrored by the predator as it shifted closer, bridging the gulf between terror and trust, between alien logic and human heart. For the first time, the classroom's sterile walls seemed porous, a doorway to something vast, something ancient, and profoundly alive. A connection had been made, not through chains or coercion, but through recognition of a shared presence in the universe. And in that recognition, the hum of machinery and metal faded, replaced by the quiet power of a human who dared to meet the unknown without compromise. The city outside continued its indifferent glow, but inside, a seed had been planted, a reminder that in humanity's defiance, there was both poetry and inevitability, a statement written in pulse and sinew. The predator could be unmatched in strength, yet respect and awe were earned in silence. The room held its breath. The predator held its breath. And the boy, in the quiet center of chaos, held a truth older than stars. Courage does not roar, it waits, it watches, and it stands unwavering in the face of what others fear. The first step toward legend had been taken. The city of Novaterra was not prepared for what followed. The predator did not remain confined to the classroom. Its presence radiated like a signal, unseen yet undeniable, and soon, systems that humans had trusted, security grids, containment protocols, even AI oversight, began to falter. Alarms rang across districts, screens flashed warnings, and the streets filled with an uneasy hum, the sound of a population on the brink of realization. They were not in control, yet humanity did not panic. People moved with purpose, their minds sharpening, their instincts stretching beyond fear. Engineers rerouted energy flows, scientists calculated patterns in the creature's movements, and citizens evacuated zones with precision that spoke to centuries of adaptation. And everywhere, from high-rise towers to shadowed alleys, whispers of awe spread. A predator, more formidable than any weapon, yet it lay down at the feet of one human who dared to meet its gaze. The boy from the classroom walked through the corridors, now flanked by the creature, which followed silently, a guardian as much as a threat. The bond had shifted something fundamental, not just in the predator, but in those who witnessed it. Across the city, people began to notice small acts of courage. A child leading an injured drone operator to safety, a medic navigating a collapse without hesitation, a pilot breaking through a storm of malfunctioning systems to save stranded civilians. Humanity's ingenuity, once taken for granted, now shone with raw brilliance. Above the city, alien ships emerged from the upper atmosphere. Sleek, angular, their metal bodies shimmering like liquid mercury, they moved with silent authority, scanning, analyzing, and preparing to enforce dominance. But humans met them not with blind fear, but with calculated resistance. Ground-to-orbit communication networks buzzed with new code, improvised weapons systems activated, and in hidden bunkers, teams of engineers worked feverishly to turn everyday technology into tools of defiance. Every ship that descended to assert control was met with countermeasures, improvised and brilliant, reflecting the unpredictable genius of a species unwilling to yield. The predator, now a presence both in public squares and inside command centers, acted as a bridge between fear and understanding. It disrupted, it protected, it moved with purpose that seemed almost prophetic. Its intelligence was alien, yet it recognized patterns of courage, acts of strategy, and flashes of empathy. Wherever humans acted with resolve, it followed, not as a weapon, but as a witness, a silent acknowledgement of what it could not fully comprehend, the depth of human spirit. In the upper sectors, the first confrontation erupted. Alien drones swarmed over the city like a storm, their weapons precise, their intent lethal. Humanity responded not with brute force, but with creativity. Magnetic fields were inverted to collapse drone formations, city infrastructure was rerouted to create temporary shields, and even simple reflections of sunlight off mirrored towers caused momentary blindness, halting their calculations. And in the midst of it, humans fought not only for survival, but for the right to exist on their own terms, to prove that intelligence, courage, and morality could defy power unmatched in the known galaxy. The boy, now a figure of quiet legend, moved alongside the predator, their steps synchronized, eyes attuned to danger, minds in harmony with the chaos around them. Where humans faltered in fear, the predator compensated with precision. Where the predator hesitated, human creativity filled the gap. Together, they became a symbol, a living testament to what the universe had seldom encountered. A species that refused to bow, that transformed vulnerability into power through defiance, understanding, and the unyielding will to endure. In the skies above, alien commanders observed the unfolding chaos. They had expected terror, submission, and predictable reactions. Instead, they faced a phenomenon unfamiliar and unnerving, a collective force born of intellect, courage, and instinct intertwined. Every maneuver was countered not just with technology, but with insight, with decisions that could not be calculated in advance. Humanity had become an anomaly in the cold calculus of conquest. At street level, the city's heartbeat was a symphony of determination. Each act of bravery inspired another, each improvisation spread like wildfire. And through it all, the Predator's presence lent a strange sense of reassurance, as if the universe itself had paused to witness the unlikeliest alliance, human defiance intertwined with an apex force of unknown origin, standing together against the storm. Night fell, but the glow of Nova Terra did not dim. Fires, sirens, and flickering lights painted the skyline in hues of orange and violet, a canvas of chaos and triumph. In hidden corners, people whispered stories of the boy and the Predator, of the city that refused to bend. And above, alien ships hovered, calculating, adjusting, unable to fully anticipate the brilliance of a species that had chosen courage over compliance. Somewhere deep in the city, the Predator lowered itself, laying flat against the metallic floor, its eyes scanning the horizon. The boy knelt beside it, surveying both the devastation and the defiance. Silence stretched between them, but it was not empty. It was full of understanding, of a pact forged in quiet courage, of a reminder that in the face of insurmountable odds, human spirit was not a flame to be extinguished, it was a storm to be reckoned with, and in that storm, the first seeds of legend began to take root. The horizon burned with unnatural light. The alien ships above Nova Terra had begun their full assault, cascading beams of energy across the city that fractured buildings like fragile crystal. Yet humanity did not crumble. They moved with precision born of desperation and intellect, weaving through fire and rubble, turning catastrophe into strategy. Drones were hacked mid-flight, repurposed into shields or decoys. Streets became channels of calculated chaos, traps set with the elegance of human foresight. Where the aliens expected confusion, they found anticipation. The boy and the Predator were at the center of it, not as heroes of legend yet, but as anchors of possibility. The Predator's movements were a counterpoint to human ingenuity. Striking with silence where machines failed, its intelligence acting in tandem with human reasoning. Together, they disrupted enemy formations, forced tactical recalculations, and sowed unpredictability. Each alien strike met with a blend of creativity, instinct, and audacity that the invaders had not accounted for. Humanity was alive, and it was dangerous. Inside the remnants of the city's central command tower, engineers worked feverishly to implement a plan born of both hope and risk. Satellite arrays were recalibrated to create a focused energy net, capable of intercepting beams from the alien ships. Civilian volunteers carried supplies, repaired systems, and transmitted real-time data that no alien AI could fully parse. Every human action was a statement. Calculation alone could not suppress the living, thinking, striving force that stood against them. Above, the alien commander recalculated constantly. Their understanding of conquest was rooted in inevitability, fear, compliance, obliteration. Yet what they faced was neither fear nor compliance, it was defiance, intelligence, and moral depth. Every attack designed to crush humanity instead revealed new patterns of ingenuity, improvisation, and cooperation. The invaders began to adapt, but adaptation alone could not match the audacity of beings willing to risk everything for survival and principle. The Predator moved through the streets, avoiding debris and fire. Its gaze scanning for threats and opportunities alike. When humans faltered, it compensated. When humans struck, it enhanced their efforts. Its presence became both shield and signal, a living proof that the universe still had secrets to teach even the most formidable forces. Children whispered of it in hiding places, soldiers followed its lead without questioning, and the boy's calm focus became a beacon of clarity in a world ablaze. One crucial battle erupted at the city's energy nexus. Alien drones converged, attempting to sever the human network that powered the energy grid. Yet humans had anticipated this, constructing temporary conduits and rerouting power through improvised circuits that glowed like veins of molten light. The Predator leapt, scattering drones with precision, while humans fired, hacked, and lured the attackers into traps set with ruthless elegance. In moments, what seemed inevitable collapse transformed into controlled advantage. Humanity had turned the battlefield into an extension of their minds, their creativity, their courage. The alien fleet, observing from above, hesitated. Calculations faltered. Intelligence alone could not predict the unorthodox decisions made by a species that combined instinct, morality, and ingenuity in ways foreign to them. Every maneuver the invaders attempted was met with counterintuition, with the living unpredictability of a civilization that refused to be understood merely as resources or obstacles. Humanity had become a force that could not be reduced to equations or simulations. Through it all, the boy remained at the center. He moved calmly, deliberately, communicating without words through presence alone, a silent command that synchronized human actions with the predator's movements. Together, they embodied defiance incarnate, a species unbroken, unbowed, capable of bending even cosmic odds through intellect, courage, and moral awareness. As the night deepened, the city glowed not with despair, but with human determination. Fires lit paths, reflections on broken glass created signals for allies, and shadows became instruments of strategy. Across the battlefield, humanity's ingenuity pulsed like a heartbeat. Unpredictable yet unified, daring the invaders to understand it, and failing, in a quiet moment amidst chaos, the boy crouched beside the predator, their eyes scanning the horizon where alien ships waited, calculating, assessing, frustrated by the impossibility of their own logic. In that pause, a truth crystallized: humanity's strength was not weapons, not numbers, not even technology. It was the courage to act, the intelligence to improvise, and the moral depth to fight not only for survival but for the right to define their existence. The city's pulse continued, stronger with every defiance, every calculated risk, every act of courage. And in the midst of fire and chaos, the predator exhaled a low hum. A sound that resonated through steel and stone, acknowledging that it had found a species worthy of respect, perhaps even of awe. Humanity had not yet won. The night was far from over. But the balance had shifted. The invaders had underestimated not a weapon, but a species, a living, thinking, daring species capable of standing against cosmic certainty, and somewhere in the silent spaces between explosions, between strategy and instinct, a new legend began to breathe. The city's skyline was fractured, yet alive. Towers splintered and cracked, fires traced veins across streets, and smoke wove intricate patterns into the night sky. Yet from the chaos, human ingenuity shone brighter than ever. Emergency networks hummed with improvisation, citizens coordinated through handheld devices, and engineers rerouted energy, creating pockets of sanctuary and counteroffensive zones. Humanity had learned to fight not as a herd, but as a collective mind, every decision intertwined, every instinct amplified. The predator moved alongside the boy through the streets, a silent partner and guardian. Its scales reflected the chaos around them, a shifting kaleidoscope of color and light, as if the city's turmoil mirrored itself in the creature's form. Where humans hesitated, it acted; where the predator paused, human instinct filled the void. Together, they became a force that defied categorization. A synthesis of intelligence, courage, and unspoken strategy. Beyond the city, the alien fleet adjusted their formation. They had studied human behavior for decades, yet they had never encountered a species capable of such rapid adaptation under pressure. The attacks they launched were precise, yet each was countered not only by technology, but by the unpredictability of human thought. Barricades, diversions, and improvised weapons turned the urban landscape into a living labyrinth designed by minds unafraid of improvisation. In one of the upper sectors, a squad of human pilots soared between crumbling skyscrapers and sleek, repurposed ships. Their movements were calculated yet fluid, weaving through alien fire with daring precision. Each maneuver forced the invaders to recalibrate, consuming precious milliseconds that human reflex and creativity turned into advantage. On the ground, citizens followed patterns dictated not by fear, but by the tacit understanding that survival required brilliance, courage, and unyielding resolve. The boy and the predator arrived at the central nexus of the city, where the alien fleet had concentrated its efforts to sever communication and power. The predator crouched, its body tense, eyes scanning the sky, while the boy accessed the central console. With deft hands, he rerouted energy through emergency lines, creating a network that reflected alien beams back toward the attackers. Lights danced across the city like veins of liquid fire, a testament to human audacity and technical mastery. Alien commanders observed in disbelief. They had expected subjugation, predictable reactions, and eventual surrender. Instead, they found an entity that adapted instantly, exploited weaknesses in real time, and acted with a combination of intelligence, moral purpose, and audacity they could neither calculate nor anticipate. Their models faltered, their simulations broke down, and the assumption that humanity could be contained began to crumble. On the streets below, civilians fought with resourcefulness. Firefighters repurposed equipment into makeshift barriers, medical teams stabilized injured soldiers in hallways converted into triage zones. Engineers turned everyday objects into weapons and defenses. Each human act was a statement: we exist not merely to endure, but to assert our presence, our intelligence, our moral right to determine our fate. The Predator's gaze swept the city, recognizing patterns, connections, and the courage that permeated every corner. It moved with precision, striking where intervention was necessary, yet never overstepping the human initiative it seemed to honor. For the first time, the creature's understanding of humanity deepened. This species, small and fragile compared to cosmic predators, wielded something far more dangerous than brute force: ingenuity married to courage, intelligence tempered by empathy. The battle reached a crescendo as alien ships descended to strike the city's central energy core. Humans responded with unparalleled coordination, rerouting power through labyrinthine conduits, deploying reflective arrays, and executing traps designed to turn the invaders' own systems against them. Explosions lit the skyline, but the destruction was never aimless. Every collapse, every burst of fire, every diversion was a calculated statement of defiance. In a rare moment of quiet amidst chaos, the boy and the Predator paused atop a shattered skyscraper. Below them, the city writhed like a living organism, resilient and defiant. The Predator lowered itself beside him, its head tilting slightly as though acknowledging the singular human who had first met its gaze without fear. Silence stretched between them, yet it vibrated with unspoken understanding. Defiance, intelligence, and moral depth were forces even the universe could not easily suppress. The alien fleet regrouped in orbit, recalculating and reassessing. Humanity had proven itself unpredictable, brilliant, and relentless. The boy's eyes, steady and unflinching, reflected the fires below, mirrored by the Predator's glowing gaze. Together, they symbolized a truth the cosmos rarely witnessed, that even in the face of overwhelming power, humanity would not yield, and in the heart of Nova Terra, amidst ruin and resilience, the first threads of legend wove themselves: a species, a predator, and a single act of courage that had shifted the tide of destiny. The battle expanded beyond Nova Terra, spreading across the planet like wildfire. Alien fleets, frustrated by human unpredictability, struck at multiple cities, each assault calculated to crush resistance swiftly. Yet humanity adapted, turning destruction into strategy. Survivors communicated across vast distances, improvising defenses and creating decentralized networks that made every attack an opportunity rather than a catastrophe. Humanity's ingenuity had become a living force, flowing through streets, skyways, and command centers alike. The boy and the Predator moved through the chaos, their presence a symbol and a tool. Where alien forces expected confusion, they found coordination. Civilians barricaded streets not just to defend, but to channel attackers into precise zones where traps waited, both technological and tactical. Engineers rigged energy conduits to redirect alien weapons, reflecting beams back with deadly precision. Every action displayed creativity married to moral purpose: to survive, yes, but to assert that no force could strip humanity of its autonomy. Above the planet, the alien fleet struggled to understand. Their AI models, once flawless, now faltered in the face of improvisation, human intuition, and the unpredictability of a species that did not act solely on fear or logic. The boy, with his calm precision, coordinated key strikes that disrupted their formations. The Predator's movements, once isolated to the city, now became a planetary phenomenon, striking where humans needed reinforcement, dispersing where guidance was enough. It was a living catalyst, amplifying human defiance without dominating it, key cities became hubs of resistance. In the frozen north, humans used natural auroras to cloak movements, sending drones that mimicked environmental patterns to confuse alien sensors. Desert settlements utilized heat and sand to create visual illusions, disorienting attackers. Coastal metropolises rerouted tidal energy to generate temporary shields and traps. Humanity had learned not only to fight, but to think in scales and dimensions that no alien invader had anticipated. In the orbital zone, the alien commanders convened, frustrated and increasingly desperate. Humanity had turned predictability into chaos, fear into strategy, and survival into defiance. Their intelligence was not uniform or algorithmic, it was living, adaptive, and morally anchored. They calculated not just outcomes, but principles, consequences, and the value of life in ways that AI and alien logic could not fully grasp. The boy, now recognized across networks as both a strategist and a symbol, coordinated planetary countermeasures. Through improvised channels, he guided human forces with clarity, patience, and foresight. The Predator moved in tandem, intercepting threats, disrupting alien operations, and signaling to humans where their ingenuity would be most effective. Together, they became a vector of defiance, a convergence of courage, intellect, and moral purpose that reshaped the battlefield across continents. The alien fleet launched a final, concentrated strike against the planet's core energy network, aiming to sever communication and cripple defense systems. Humanity responded with precision born of audacity, energy conduits rerouted in real time, city grids synchronized into a planetary web, and the Predator acted as the linchpin, neutralizing the most immediate threats with movements of terrifying elegance. Explosions lit the skies like artificial auroras, yet the strikes became opportunities. Their destructive force redirected into strategy. In the aftermath, cities were scarred but not broken. Humans emerged from ruins, repairing, reorganizing, and advancing. Every action sent a message. Defiance was not merely resistance, it was intelligence, it was creativity, it was moral truth in action. The boy and the Predator stood on the highest plateau of a ruined city, overlooking the vast landscape of survival and ingenuity. Below them, humanity thrived in its own chaotic, brilliant way. The alien fleet, battered and reconsidering, withdrew to orbit. Their mission had been challenged not by numbers or brute force, but by a force they could not quantify, the essence of human spirit. Humanity had proven that intellect, courage, and moral depth could not be suppressed, that even in the face of overwhelming power, survival was a choice executed with brilliance and audacity. And in that vast, quiet moment before the next dawn, the boy knelt beside the Predator, hands brushing against its shimmering scales, feeling the pulse of a bond forged in defiance, trust, and mutual recognition. Across the planet, humans began to rebuild, each act of repair and innovation a testament to the unbreakable will of a species that refused to be subdued. The legend was no longer forming, it had arrived. The dawn over Nova Terra was a fragile glow, bleeding across a city that bore scars like medals of survival. Fires smoldered, towers leaned but stood, and streets were littered with the debris of both alien assault and human defiance. Yet in the midst of ruin, life surged. Humans moved with purpose, rebuilding, adapting, and asserting their presence in every repaired circuit, every cleared street, every improvised shield. They were alive, unbowed, and infinitely more dangerous than any force that had underestimated them. The Predator moved through the city with a quiet authority, its steps measured, eyes ever watchful. The boy walked beside it, a human and a creature bound not by chains, but by recognition and mutual understanding. Their presence radiated calm amidst chaos, an anchor for the surviving population and a reminder that courage and intellect could tame even the most terrifying unknowns. The alien fleet hovered above the planet, distant but far from gone. Their weapons, though formidable, had met resistance they could not predict. They had assumed fear, predictability, and submission. Instead, they encountered intelligence, audacity, and moral depth. They observed the humans rebuilding, recalibrating, and asserting control over a world that had been threatened into chaos, and they began to recognize a pattern they could not disrupt. Humanity had become more than a species, they had become a force. Across the globe, humans continued to adapt. Scientists repurposed alien technology into tools of defense, engineers turned rubble into infrastructure, and civilians organized themselves into networks of resilience and innovation. Every human act of repair, protection, or creation was a message sent not to enemies alone, but to the universe. We exist. We persist. We define ourselves. The boy and the predator ascended a shattered skyscraper to survey the horizon. Below them, Nova Terra throbbed with life, a city reborn in the crucible of defiance. The predator's gaze swept the skyline, taking in the subtle movements, the calculated actions, the brilliance of improvisation. Its understanding of humanity deepened. This species, fragile yet unyielding, had the audacity to confront cosmic power and redefine its limits. As the sun rose fully, its light reflected off glass, metal, and water alike, casting a spectrum across the city like a halo of resilience. The boy knelt beside the predator, their eyes meeting in quiet acknowledgement. They had faced what seemed impossible, a force unmatched in strength and logic, yet their defiance, intellect, and moral clarity had prevailed. Humanity's story, once presumed insignificant in the vastness of the cosmos, had now carved its mark. The city, the people, the ingenuity, and the courage, all intertwined with the silent, watchful presence of the predator, spoke of a species capable of greatness beyond mere survival. Above, the alien fleet retreated, their calculations incomplete, their assumptions shattered. The universe had witnessed the unexpected, the strength of a species that refused to submit. The clarity of a mind that met terror without fear, and the bond between human and apex predator that had reshaped destiny itself. And in that quiet moment, atop a ruined but resilient city, the boy whispered nothing. He did not need to. The predator lay at his feet, calm, aware, and present. Together, they had turned fear into respect, chaos into strategy, and defiance into legend. Humanity had endured. Humanity had triumphed. Humanity had become a story the stars themselves would remember, and somewhere, in the pulse of a world reborn, the last thought lingered, clear and unspoken: the human spirit will never be caged.